Hello, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. And so, in the last video, I'm sure you'd have really enjoyed the way of dry running the program and seeing the scope chaining actually in execution. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we're going to take a similar example. In fact, a very similar example where we will just modify some of the things that we saw in our previous example. Okay, and it will be a very subtle modification. So before that, so let's look at the example that we looked at previously. This is the program. Take a look at it once again. So this was the function 1. I'm expanding it. This is the body of the function 1. There was this function 2 inside function 1, which was a nested function. And this function 2 was being called after the declaration of function 2. Okay. So basically we are declaring function 2 and then calling function 2 inside the function 1. And this was the body of function 2. Okay, so have a very close watch at this and try to remember whatever we discussed in the previous video. And even if you want, you can just go ahead and watch the previous video before coming here, because that would be really essential in this. Okay, so take a couple of minutes and just if you want, pause the video. So what if now we wanted to, instead of executing this function, right away, we wanted to execute it at a later point of time. Okay, what is the way to do that? One way could definitely be having this function 2 returned from here. Okay, if you want to return this function 2 from here, how about that? So again, like, take a moment and try to understand what we are trying to do over here. I think just modify this a bit. So how about putting the return here instead? Okay. Now if we put the return over here, what will happen? Take a moment and try to predict the outcome over here. Okay, so whatever you would have thought about, right? Let's see, first of all, executing this once, and then we will try to explain how it could have happened like that. And so we don't see anything over here. Okay. Well, that's because the function 1 is being called from here, and we have not actually executed function 2. Okay, we have not actually executed function 2, remember, and that is why we have not got any output over here. We have executed function 1, but function 2 we have commented out. Okay, so how do we call function 2 later on? Can we Now, why did we return this out of this? Now, mind you, this function 2 is not available outside this function 1. So basically, you just cannot do this. Okay, let me just try to show this. And as you see, the not defined because it is within the scope of function 1, and hence this is not possible. So how do we call function 2 outside function 1? And see, to enable this, what we have done is we have returned function 2. And so it is to be remembered that JavaScript, one of the very unique things amongst many in JavaScript is that JavaScript treats functions as objects, and hence you can actually return functions as objects, like objects in functions from a function, right? So a function can take in another function as a parameter. A function can have a function inside as a nested function, as well as a function can return a function, okay, from itself. So in this case we have done that. Now that we have done that, instead of calling the function 1 like this, why don't we capture the return value somewhere? So okay, what about this? Or just to make this simpler. Okay, so now what do we have in fn2? Don't we have function 2 in fn2? Well, the reference of function 2 is returned to fn2. So fn2 is now capturing, is now actually pointing to the reference of function 2. And so we can actually call fn2 like this. And now when we call fn2, function 2 will actually be called. Okay, function 2 will actually be called. And now let's just try to predict the outcome. And what I'll do over here again is that I will do the same thing. So basically we'll go through the scope chaining once more. So this much remains the same. Okay, starts the global execution context. Okay, starts the global execution context. From line 1, it's the same over there. It goes to line 2, 0 is assigned. Then it goes to line 3. Well, we have no, so we go to line 5, and at that point of time again it's the same over there. So oh no, let me just, yeah, so the outer scope is same, but what about the local scope? So take a moment and try to predict the local scope over here. Yeah, so at this time there is nothing over here because we have not started executing the function 1, and so it doesn't have anything in the local scope, but the outer scope is assigned at the time of the creation of the execution, at the time of creation of the function 1, looking at the function 1 declaration. So after that we come to the end because we don't have anything over here, line 27. After that we come to line 27. So straight away after line 5 we come to line 27, still in the global execution context. Now in line 27 what we do is we are actually executing function 1, and hence now this goes underneath, and my top of the stack is actually function 1 execution context. Okay, so here now basically what happens is we are creating the execution context for function 1, and hence the hoisting happens over here for function 1. So y becomes undefined. Hope you agree with that. And after this point onwards y becomes 1. This remains the same, and over here it comes to function 2. Now again what happens over here is that at this time we don't have a local scope for this, but as per the outer scope this is what it is. Okay, and then this would be just going over to line 28. Now when it goes to line 28, so let me just, so line 8 and then line 12, and after that it goes straight away to the global execution context, right? So this would go back over here, and this comes up, and then what happens is after 27 it comes to 28. Okay, and once 28 comes we actually have function 2, because function 2 is now getting executed over here in line 28. And so now fn2 execution context is getting created.